evening. Welcome to the July 10th, 2018 City Council meeting. Roll call, please.
Mayor Webb?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Aubrey?
Here.
Councilmember Sullivan?
Here.
Councilmember LaCuro?
Here.
Councilmember Holland?
Here.
And that brings us to the invocation and pledge of allegiance. Councilman Carroll.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Holy Spirit, source of all life, we gather together as the elected officials of our community, charged by the people to discern our future together. We are a diverse body brought together by the same Spirit. We pray that we will be faithful to the work at hand, to set aside our own personal agendas, to seek out the greater good. Open our minds and our hearts to listen in for your will for us, and bestow upon us your wisdom and grace. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Council, approval of the revised agenda, please.
I move approval, Mr. Mayor, of the agenda as revised.
Support.
Any dissension, discussion? We have an agenda. Special presentations. We have certificates of recognition for the Hazel Park Police Department volunteerism. Will the officers please come to the podium? I'm going to read this here. In appreciation for outstanding dedication and participation in the community outreach services, Hazel Park police officers assisted in chaperoning disabled children at the Detroit Public Zoo. Your commitment to our community is inspiring to others, and thank you. Ryan Cones, I'll be right there. I'm going to read the names off. Lorenzo Fragliano.
Fragnoli.
Sorry. I'm a little off today.
This way, gentlemen.
Michael Grisby.
Grigsby was smiling for the camera.
Stanley Williams is the names. Stan's not here today. And Tommy Porter. And I'm going to walk out here, give these gentlemen their due for their great dedication and hard work. Tommy?
Yes, sir.
And this one's Stanley.
Stan's not here.
And we have Grigsby. Lorenzo Fernoli. Thank you, gentlemen. Brian. Thank you. Thank you again.
Gentlemen, before you escape, if you could hold up for just a sec. I want to thank each of you. This platoon is outstanding, and we have a new officer that's on this platoon, has been training with it, and her first day on the job, you guys, a lady had her flag removed from her property, and you guys, on your own initiative, replaced that flag for her. Family of veterans, your service to this community is outstanding, and I appreciate each and every one of you and the families that you go home to that support you in your work here. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I want to echo Councilwoman Holland's comments. This is a great shift. It really is. These guys do a fantastic job, and the city of Hazel Park is lucky to have the police department we have. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you for your dedication, and be safe out there.
Thank you.
Takes us to a special presentation from the pub crawl presentation of funds.
Did you want to say?
Good evening, council. Good evening.
Good evening.
Joined with me up here is Sue Barrows, resident of the city of Hazel Park, along with my wife, Michelle Haskell, and my name is Robert Haskell. We're part owners of the Cozy Lounge in Hazel Park. So thank you, guys. On July 9th, we hosted our first annual Walk in the Park pub crawl. It benefited 3 outstanding nonprofit organizations that we want to talk about. Hazel Park Arts Council, Hazel Park Library Friends, and also the Promise Zone. The participants for the businesses were Mike Wilds at House of Shamrocks, Carrie and Joe Vaughn at Joe Bar, Dominic and Ian and Andrew at Sellerman's, Jason Papa at Madison Park Bowl, and then obviously Cozy Lounge. So on that behalf, I'll get that over with. I wanted to give an extended thank you to Ed and to the council also for letting us use the bus to transport the participants in the walkathon. So look for next year's to be bigger and better. We're hoping a lot more so that we can donate a lot more money to these great causes. So I think the first one is the Friends of the Park, Friends of the Library, Megan Brown. And he also is Mike McFall for Arts Council. And then Kayla Smith for the Promise Zone. That's all we got for today.
Thank you very much.
I had a great time. I didn't know there was a bus. I was walking and riding my bicycle, but I started late. It was fun.
Mr. Mayor, the real thanks go to these three folks who are up here that put this on and sponsored it, and the other people who patronized it and supported it. So thank you. Just another, again, evidence of the great things that are happening in the city of Hazel Park. Thank you so much for your efforts.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like to ask our county commissioner to come up, Elaine Zach.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. Couple of things that I want to make you aware of. First of all, I serve on an organization called the Area Agency on Aging 1B. I'm the one Oakland County Commissioner that sits there on behalf of seniors. And what they do is they receive federal and state funds for 6 counties and oversee our lower income seniors, services to them. And one of the initiatives that I'm really excited that they started in 2013 was advocating on behalf of more money for home services. Historically, the state would only give money for people who were in nursing homes, and it doesn't make sense. It's more expensive. People want to age in place and stay in their home as long as they can. So our Area Agency on Aging led this advocacy initiative called the Silver Key Initiative. And since 2014, we have gotten $13.6 million into our local Area Agency on Aging. In this last budget cycle, this is an area where things have gone up. We are going to see $2.5 million more in our area agency. And these are the things: Meals on Wheels, congregate things, chore services. And I do encourage people, if you need help, he called the Area Agency on Aging. I don't have the number, but if you don't, contact me. But it's really a wonderful program. There also was a hot article a couple weeks ago, about a month ago, in a publication called The Bridge Magazine, and it was also on NPR, about Oakland County having discriminatory housing practices. And I have read the rebuttal. I was appalled and very upset. We were accused, Oakland County was accused by HUD of having perceived discriminatory practices in April, and I was not notified until this Bridge article came out in June. And I'm the legislative branch, and I should have been notified. In any case, what they were saying, we get community home and improvement funds, and some of those do come to Hazel Park as far as block grant funding, as well as small home repair. And there's a chunk of money, the small home repair, which are home federal funds, we get $2 million, that HUD feels that we should be using for rental assistance or to help develop affordable housing. And I do agree with that. And I've tried to work with county policy a couple of years ago. So to be continued. Hopefully, this will be an opportunity to change some of our policies to help renters as well. The issue of affordable housing in our county is very challenging. Finally, I do want to remind people about all the wonderful services in our health department. The closest health department to here is in Southfield at Catalpa, 11 and a half and Greenfield Road. I was there a couple weeks ago getting a shingles shot and a pneumonia shot. There's a new and improved shingles shot if you had one before. This one is 90% effective. There's also a tremendous number of different initiatives, if you go on, that our public health does, suicide awareness, information. In Michigan, there is a 31% increase in suicide since 1999 in the state of Michigan. It's devastating, and Oakland County is right in there statistically. And so there is a collaborative suicide project. There's projects on other health issues such as opioid drugs, you name it. Our public health department is really wonderful and takes care of us. Tremendous amount of materials. So it's at www.oakgov.com/health. And finally, I do want to remind people that we have a primary election August 7th coming up, and I do urge people to get out and vote. There are a lot of different races on the ballot. We live in a very partisan district, and this is your opportunity to exercise your freedom of choice. So that's it. Any questions?
Thank you, Helene.
Thank you.
Thank you, Helene.
Takes us to civic announcements. Any civic announcements from the audience?
Just very briefly, it was published online and on our Facebook page, but LG is hosting a job fair this Friday. They're seeking to fill production operator positions, material handler position, and quality tech positions for their second shift. It will be from 12 to 4 at the Rec Center at 620 West Woodward Heights. And I just wanted to note this is for the facility that is located in Hazel Park on East 10 Mile Road.
Thank you.
Thanks, Joe.
Any civic announcements from the city council? No. Hearing none, we'll open up public discussion. Public discussion is now open. Anyone wishing to come up to say anything? Seeing no one, closing public discussion. Council, consent agenda. A motion to approve, or
Motion to approve the consent agenda with discussion.
you have support on that?
Support.
Discussion?
Consent agenda item number 6 has got 2 items for right of first refusal. I was just wondering what the plan is for the properties.
Yes. Mayor Pro Tem, those properties will be taken by the city of Hazel Park. These were 2 parcels that the homeowners wished to make a deal with the city treasurer, but they were after the time frame that was allowed for them to come up with a payment plan. So the city of Hazel Park will take those homes and the homeowners will pay us the taxes in full. We have already received a check from one of the homeowners for those taxes, and the city is holding those funds. And the second one I spoke with today, she was willing to bring in the check today, but we were too busy to meet with her. She will bring in the check tomorrow.
I think this is wonderful that we're offering an opportunity to keep people in their homes. So, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Your participation in this matter is required as well to exercise that right of first refusal, and you are keeping 2 families in homes.
Okay. Any other discussion on consent agenda? Okay, good.
Just a general question, not on the business license on here, but as I was looking at the business license, I noticed we have a box that asks if the applicant is a felon. And I'm wondering why and how is that relevant to somebody opening a business?
There are some boxes for some businesses where we would do a background check where it would be important for us to know whether or not the individual was a felon or had a criminal record. But there are some where whether, the applicant has a felony and we still go ahead and recommend approval.
Under what situation would we not approve a business license for a felon?
Someone who is involved with a business that may involve the public trust, like an alarm business or a security business or something like that.
Or a liquor license.
Or a liquor license where it's required by state law for us to know that answer.
Is that something that, regardless of whether they check the box yes or no, we would be doing a background check?
We would always do a background check. But again, like I said, having a felony conviction does not, on its face, disqualify the majority of business owners from licensure.
I personally don't like having this on the business license. I understand why it's there. It's in only certain situations, but I feel that it might make some applicants uncomfortable. If we're going to be doing a background check regardless, is it possible that we can just remove that from the application?
Why don't you let me speak with Melissa, and we'll get back with you with a legal opinion for you on that at the next meeting. I don't see necessarily a problem, but there may be. And I'd like to make sure we consult with Melissa.
If I can, please. It's very important when it's a matter of honesty, integrity, and trust, and to have someone exhibit the honesty to say yes is very, very important. It gives the first line of defense as to whether somebody is going to be candid and honest. When you open up a business and you're dealing with the public, it's very important that we know who these people are. What if they have a very violent felony in their background or anything? We just don't know. But that box does give an opportunity for a first line for someone to be forthcoming and candid in the process.
There's a lot of communities these days that are passing ordinances to remove that type of question from business license and employment applications, because if it's not necessary, you have a lot of people that may be felons that they feel the stigma already being a felon. They may have served their time, they may be rehabilitated, but when you see something like that on an application, you may have a felon who can't get employed because of their felony conviction. They may want to be an entrepreneur, and now they may feel discouraged that they may see the application and be too afraid to apply. So there's a lot of stigma around this. So definitely please look into the legal grounds for keeping or removing that, and we can take this up again at the next meeting.
Thank you. We will.
Absolutely.
I had a comment. Back in around 2009, there was a company that wanted to open up a grow store, for hydroponics. And they lied on the application. Their felony conviction had nothing to do with their business license. It wasn't a drug conviction, but they lied. And they were denied that license because of the lying, because of the first line of being untruthful. They would have been approved, most likely, except for that lying. So I understand there is actually a movement about ending the box. The MML the Michigan Municipal League was having one of their classes on it about a year and a half ago. And as far as employment went, they were finding that the box didn't really lessen the perception of someone who might have a felony. They're checked anyway, so, I'm not sure the box is getting rid of it or not is a good thing, but I'd appreciate looking into it. But I agree with Melissa, the city attorney, where somebody lied right to us, and sorry, you probably would have gotten a business license for not the lying.
And we may be able to come up with something between the two of us that solves both problems. Give us a chance to think a little bit about this.
Okay. Any other discussion from the council? Any dissension? Consent agenda is passed. Administrative reports, item 1, Freedom of Information Act appeal.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. The administration is recommending that the City Council deny the Freedom of Information Act request, but I do want to point something out. The first two Freedom of Information Act requests we are denying because this is an ongoing investigation, and that type of information is exempt. But the third request, I need to elaborate on that a little bit, because that request is saying that we denied any type of FBI contact for investigative purposes, and that's not the case. An accurate denial is that we sent Mr. Burns a letter very clearly indicating that no such information exists.
Okay. So,
I have here attached to your packets a copy of that letter dated June 15th to Mr. Burns pursuant to your request dated June 12th, 2018 for information under Michigan's Freedom of Information Act. The following portion of the records you have requested does not exist. Any communications included to, but not limited to, letters, emails, subpoenas, or search warrants received by Hazel Park from the FBI between January 1st, 2017 and the date of this FOIA request. Again, for the record, no such information exists. I told that to the individual before. Apparently, he wants it to be in the minutes of the city council, or apparently he is confused because he still says that in his FOIA request, he indicates that we denied it because it would interfere with the law enforcement proceeding. That's simply not the case.
so what would you recommend we,
I would recommend denial with a clarification on the third request that is being denied because those records do not exist.
counsel?
Mr. Mayor, I'll move approval of the Freedom of Information Act appeal denial.
Anything else?
That's it.
As amended, as we
Yep.
corrected it.
Any, do I have a support?
I'll go ahead and support.
Any discussion? Dissension? Passes. Boards and Commissions, Brownfield Redevelopment Authority. Three members, the terms expired, 2018. Prospective appointments for these items would be as follows: Tom Jones, 2021; Zareen Papakian, 2021; James Patterson, 2021.
Mr. Mayor, we are requesting the appointment of Mr. Jones to replace Mr. Duberg because Mr. Duberg has indicated his plans to retire from the city of Hazel Park later this year.
Do I have a motion to do so?
I'll motion to appoint Tom Jones, Serene Papakian, and James Patterson to the Brownfield Redevelopment Authority with terms expiring 2021.
I'll support with discussion.
We have a motion and a support with discussion. Councilwoman Holland?
I spoke with the city manager just prior to this. The makeup of the board currently, and the reason given, I understand. However, it's all current or previous city employees. We need to put the word out that we need residents of the community that are able to participate in this board with the understanding it's a 9 to 5 Monday through Friday, last minute possible meetings and no set schedule. I would like to see regular citizens, not just people that are pulling a paycheck from the city on this board.
Okay, any other discussion? Any rebuttal?
Can I ask a question? How many members of this board are there?
There are 5 on the board right now,
And is there a pay, do they get?
and there is an alternate. You do not get paid for being on the board.
Any other comments?
Who are the other two members?
Myself and Mike Mazzucchelli, and there is also an alternate.
Any more discussion, comments, questions, elaborations?
Is that 5 a static number, or is that
We need to have
and it has to be an odd number?
an odd number. I will have to check the statute. I know that you have to have at least 5.
Okay. So potentially there's room for
Potentially
additional.
there's room for additional.
Can we hold off until we find that?
I'd like to get these reappointed because we are going to have a brownfield meeting soon. We're going to have to deal with this is going to happen, it's going to happen imminently, possibly before your
I think
next.
this board can be added up to.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see if we can add a couple, but I need to get these appointments right now.
Yeah, just to explain, I have no complaints with anyone that's serving on the board. They're all outstanding individuals, yourself included. I just would like to see regular citizens on the board as
I
well.
was the
Just-
regular citizen.
Well,
That's how
you're-
long
you're-
I've been on that board. I was the regular citizen before I worked for the city of Hazel Park.
That was a few years back. But we can add a couple more people to it with the understanding.
I was 12.
Yeah.
Sure.
Uh-huh.
Yes, it's true.
If we could add a couple more down the road, so we maintain the odd number. But it's just important that we have citizens on these boards.
Like I said, I actually truly was I was the citizen.
Now, are you the odd man out?
Now I am the city manager, because city manager's always been on the board too. So,
All right, we have a motion, discussion, it's been rediscussed, rehashed, and overhashed. It's all done. Those people are getting on the board again. New business. Let's talk trees, since it seems to be the main topic of discussion on Cork Board's community forum and every other social media website in town. Would you like to come up, Mr. Duborg and Mr. Jones?
yes, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to introduce DPW Superintendent Christopher Duberg, DPW Supervisor Tom Jones. They have with them representatives of J. Hart Tree Service, and they're here to talk to you a little bit about the program and answer any questions that you may have. For the record, I want it known, I want it stated, I want it hollered from the rooftops. The city of Hazel Park does not want to kill trees. Okay, we are simply involved in this program to make sure we ensure the health and safety of the city of Hazel Park.
After reading this comments back and forth, and then the comments from our own board here on a few issues on our own messaging board, I'd say, let's just put it under new business on the agenda, and let's just get this out to the public one more time. I believe we talked about it about 3 months ago. Tom, I think you brought that up at the time. And I figure we can get it back out and get some information out there, clarify the air, and let everybody know what's going on. Go ahead. All right.
Mayor and council. We started last year, we started a tree program preceding our sidewalk program. In the past, we started doing sidewalk programs north of Woodward Heights, and the trees were a majority of some of the issues. We were behind the 8 ball quite a bit, trying to get rid of trees that were interfering into the next program. We started last year, I don't know if you have your maps, we started in section 4, which would be from John R. to Pilgrim, 9 Mile to Woodward Heights. In that program, we trimmed over 121 trees, and we took down 50 trees. The area is cut in the middle was I-75 and also the Kroger complex, so that number was pretty manageable. Our next section, section 5, is from Carlisle all the way to Cousins, from 9 Mile to Woodward Heights. A little bit denser as far as the trees and the maturity of the trees. We, rewinding back, we did take on J.H. Hart as our arborist to come out. They're going tree by tree. We want to trim the trees that we can. That's the main goal. As they get into a tree, they're giving reports to us saying, this tree here, we recommend its removal for various reasons, sometimes very obvious. The next criteria is possible removal. That is something that we added in because of the sidewalk program. When a tree is outgrown the small area, some of the parkways are very small, and they have trees that are over 60 foot tall, 70 feet tall.
It's time for a tree.
So those are things, and yes, they may look nice and healthy, but they also have really outgrown the space. There are utilities under the ground. Our water lines, our sewer lines, our gas lines, there's a lot going underground that we don't see. And tree by tree, as J.H. Hart goes through, they give me a email each day, and I do go back out, look at each tree, and either agree or not agree. And then at the end of this program, we're going to do a final walkthrough for anything that might have been missed or anything that I may or may have not seen what the reason was with the tree. We like I say, I know social media says many things. I understand that. We're not trying to deforest Hazel Park. We're trying to make this a safe blocks. Like I say, everything north of Woodward Heights, we have new sidewalks. Everything west of John R. between 9 Mile and Woodward Heights, we have new sidewalks. Free of trip and fall hazards, you know, children can ride their bikes without falling down. This is a good program, and it's proactive. In the past, we've been reactive to issues. Rewinding to March 8th, 2017, we had a windstorm. We clocked over 61 miles per hour winds, and within seconds, we lost 24 trees, lost entire trees, not counting all the broken branches and this and that. Fortunately, we didn't have human lives being hurt or worse, and these are programs that I highly recommend, and I hope we can continue to do so.
Can I ask a couple questions?
Yeah.
I see that some of these trees are trimmed up to about 15 foot above ground at the main trunk area. And some of this wood may be of some kind of value of some kind. Is that included in the offset of the cost of the cuts? That they're benefiting from some of the wood that may be still structurally good to sell?
It's far.
No.
Are we talking when they?
Residents are allowed to take any wood that they want.
No, I guess I'm asking,
Cost cutting.
I just didn't know if they were adjusting that with some of the costs it is costing us to take them down.
I don't know if it's the same, but when they do take a tree down, some of the people have said, hey, why do I have a totem pole in front of my house now? Reason being, J.H. Hart leaves them in a solid, and then they come back on normally Fridays with a log truck that has a grappling hook on it, and they cut the entire piece down. A lot less cuts. We do have J.H. Hart here.
No, I have another question. Is it possible that maybe J.H. Hart and his company could benefit by helping us out and planting some trees in certain areas of these streets to, you know, like a 3-foot tree or something that may fit into our tree program with the certain types of trees to help buffer the future of the community, engaging growth and hopefully, you know, job security down the road. But is that something they may want to look at?
I am Judd Hart, president of J.H.
Nice to meet
Hart Forestry, and thank you all for having me here tonight. Coincidentally, we just had a dialogue in the back room before the meeting started about a tree planting program. So we have been somewhat of a reactive community, meaning Hazel Park, to this point, to reacting to our forest rather than being proactive. So with that being said, the answer to your question is yes, I can buy into that. But I would like to see some type of a comprehensive program before we just jump into something and start planting trees. We need to get a plan and work the plan.
There's the comprehensive man standing to your right that needs to bring the plan to us. His right.
It's our right.
Our right, sorry.
Stage right.
But
So-
you can always bring that plan back in front of the administration, and they can give us an update as to where we go from there. And I believe some council members have some other questions.
Don't go away. Yeah, I have questions for both. So some of my questions are not necessarily on the trimming of the trees. I understand very well the need to trim many of the trees, the reasons why. I just didn't think that a lot of our residents understand. My first request is, can we put together some type of comprehensive document that explains all the reasons that you just said and put this on the website? So when we can say it's on the website. We can share that link with people. We can reference it quicker to explain the reasons why a tree may be cut down and the hazards of not cutting it. Or, you know, if we cut the roots for sidewalk programs, the tree may fall, stuff like that. So that's my first request to you. Couple of questions. We got just a sample document of some of the trees on Cousins. So just to better understand the notes, what does a street light, it'll say recommend removal and then street light. How does the street light play into that decision?
Street light actually sometimes is totally engulfed by the tree.
Okay.
You know, it's grown right into it, just like a tree in our own yard, to where pruning it is still an issue.
Still gonna filter the light?
And residents do call quite a bit. They're like, hey, my street's very dark. Can we, do a little bit here and there? So some of those on there were the tree was right next to the street light. And it's one of the reasons.
It's a way to pay for trimming the tree. If it's near the tree light, if it's near the street light, we can bill street lighting for it. So that's why some of those are documented like that.
Okay. Junk?
Yes, and that's my note. Basically, that tree was, should have been probably cut down probably 8 years ago type of deal. So those are my notes. Each day, like I say, we get the email, I go back out and I write my notes. So I did type these out so you
Great, I appreciate you typing them out, and that's why I just wanted to understand. I know everybody has their own code.
And that's after, too, they put recommended removal there. So when Hart puts recommended removal, usually when I go to it, it's very obvious that this tree's in bad, poor health. It's got hollow, you name it. I've taken some pictures along the way. Sometimes I'll see a tree I might have drove by numerous times on the block, and I'm like, why is that one on the list? And I get out and walk and look, and I found where the entire house side is just hollow. There's just a total hole that I could stick my head into on a...
So,
And if I may expand on that too, the best way to inspect a tree is from a loft. Seeing things from the ground, if you can see them from the ground when you're aloft, they even get worse.
yeah, I've had sick trees in my property before. So some of these say possible removal, and then you did not put on removal list. What's the reason that might?
Those ones, there is going to be a final walkthrough. So I have questions. There was 23712 I've looked at, and I'm not seeing from the ground what the issue is. And there again, when they're up in the tree, maybe they're seeing something that I'm not seeing. It may be totally hollow looking down at it. So those are things that when we do a final walkthrough, I'm going to get a second, another look at that and see what the arborist is referring to. Sometimes in the program also, they've had to bounce back from block to block due to vehicles in the way and this and that. So sometimes there's going to be some trees that I've looked at and it's like, well, that one didn't get trimmed yet, and it might have been because they're just unable to get to that house. So a lot of different reasons, a lot of variables on these trees.
To J.H. Hart, there were a couple of accusations in the Facebook post. So my question is, what's the procedure for wildlife bird nests that are found in the trees?
I'm going to defer to Tyler on that. Tyler's your foreman. He also happens to be my son and my exit strategy. Don't get him, Tyler.
Well said.
For the most part, we do everything we can to get them out of there. I've taken out over 20 nests this year out of trees, but sometimes we just don't see them. And we don't like to kill anything, but it does happen. We've taken nests of squirrels out. We took a family of raccoons out of one. So there is a few that we have missed, and for the most part, we try to get them out.
What do you do with them after you take them out?
Put them in another tree.
Just so you know, we do have, for birds, we have a wildlife rehabber here in the community. So if there's any birds that you're not able to relocate, Wild Wings, you can, I don't recall her website offhand, but if you Google Wild Wings, she's always an excellent resource for dealing with at least the birds.
I have questions when you're done.
I have 2 more. Back to Tom.
I was going to say, I'll make sure that we get it to you.
At the end of the
I
meeting,
just put that in my notes.
Yeah, we can look it up and make sure you get it to.
And I'll reach out to her and let her know that we're doing that, since we just offered her services.
Because sometimes she is full, sometimes she
Yes,
reaches
but she does
capacity.
have other groups that she can work with as
She
well.
can
so
do
she can
referrals.
refer.
So on the contract side, when we started asking about this, I found out there is no contract. I was provided a copy of the proposal, but my question is, how many proposals did we receive for tree trimming services?
Originally,
Okay, that information was not conveyed to me. Can you explain that a little?
so
He's on the soccer board,
we-
but they were our chipping contractor at the time, which gave us the availability to have them trim trees.
This is a very difficult contract to fill. Didn't get bids, didn't get people to respond.
Okay.
Fortunate
But we,
somebody
we
did.
sought them, there just weren't responses. Okay.
Jay Chart, I'm the soccer member, you're kind of cutting back. You know, there was some services you didn't want to continue to provide for us. And you did this, I mean, but I'm just saying, there's not a ton of companies that are banging down our doors saying we want to do, people are busy. Look how many we put houses up for bid. We get one or, for demolition, we get one or two. We used to get 5 or 6.
City forestry is what we do. We're good at it.
Oh, yeah, I
manage
read your
it- I
proposal.
manage-
It was a
I
very
manage
good
it.
proposal.
Yeah, I manage quite a few communities, and you're very competitively priced, and you're correct. The SACRA issue was a staffing issue. I can't find good help.
Yeah.
It's just horrible.
I'm big on, yeah, I'm big on competitive bidding, but I also understand, I've worked on contracts for quite some time outside of here, and I understand that sometimes people just don't bid, they're stretched thin. A lot of communities are doing tree trimming right now. So I understand that. I just wanted to better understand, because I wasn't here when that contract came through council. And last one, I 100% support coming up with some type of tree replacement program. We have communities all around us that have done this, where they went through, they trimmed down a lot of trees because they had to be trimmed down. They didn't have a program in place, and they're regretting it. So now that we're in the middle of doing it, we need to be proactive. We can reach out to some of the groups that we used to put the trees in Scout Park, Girl Scout troops, Boy Scout troops, other philanthropy. If you're willing to help us, we definitely need to come up with a program and then find the resources to do that, so that we're not, kicking ourselves for not replacing these trees.
The 7 communities that we manage all have tree replacement programs, and I would be.
So we can copy off of those?
Exactly. It's not a secret, though. I mean, this is just good forest management.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
that's, I don't have those type of responsibilities. I'm just your contractor now. But as the relationship evolves, I would be happy to be your forester. That's fine. But right now, I'm just your contractor.
Right. We appreciate your insights and your expertise in that. And I just want to point out a couple of statistics. Just let people know, I went to Arbor Day Foundation. Net cooling effect of a young, healthy tree is equivalent to 10 room-size air conditioners operating 20 hours a day. Landscaping, especially with trees, can increase property values as much as 20%. In laboratory research, visual exposure to settings with trees has produced significant recovery from stress within 5 minutes, as indicated by changes in blood pressure and muscle tension. These are all positive benefits of trees. We all know the positive benefits of trees. So as we go through and we're, making sure that our city is safe from falling trees, people tripping on sidewalks and everything, we need to make sure that we think bigger, more long-term, and move forward with definitely creating a tree replacement program.
just to add to the Scout Park, we did place 16 new trees, and then in our canine dog park, we placed 4. They're all native to Michigan. We partnered up with Relief Michigan at the time.
I was there. It was fun.
So it's going well. All the trees are healthy and looking good. I was told at one time Scout Park was a forest, so it has changed. And some of these trees that were planted will hit the 60 to 80 feet maturity rate, but we have the room there. the trees that we do in the small parkways, we have to look at. We don't want these large trees that should have never been in those spots. So I do look forward to working on some of these programs.
I do have a question. So when this was brought up, again, I was not here for the origination of this program, but this was brought to our attention originally by a resident who had a tree removed. Unbeknownst to him, it was being removed. And at that time, we tried to figure out a way to mark the trees or to at least let the residents know. And this is something that the city manager and I have spoken about, and I unfortunately was not able to be in on the conference call with you two. I'm very sorry. My week has been chaos. But I do appreciate you coming here and taking the time out, and I definitely appreciate you gentlemen coming as well, because I think a lot of this is misinformation and lack of information that our residents have been provided with, and that's creating kind of a caustic reaction. So we had talked about marking with a spray paint, but somebody else had said that a disgruntled neighbor then went and marked the rest of the trees. However, we have a list, right? So you get a list from J.H. Hart, you make a list, and then you give it to Todd, and then you check it, and then that gets approved. So even if there were other trees marked, they wouldn't be on your list, so they shouldn't be removed. The marking would be more for the resident, is my thought process. That's the easiest, cheapest way, but I would love a letter that would go to those residents, to those addresses, to let them know. Do we have a time frame in between when your list is made, when you go out, and then when the actual removal is done?
Cousins, for instance, that was looked at back in April.
Okay, so we've got a good amount of time in between.
You know, it's tree by tree. Like I say, as dense as that area was, it is taking time. Last year, for instance, they were done by early May.
Okay.
So this year, it's taken a little bit longer. I want to also blame the heat last week.
For certain. I was in it.
And
Walking
the week
dogs
before
in it
that
and
and the week before
dying.
that.
Blood pressure goes up, things change. It's just my theory, but
Absolutely.
we've been working in this
Well-
area since February,
Right.
and then all of a sudden last week it
Well, and on Cousins, it
changed.
was rather stark. Like it was like amazingly noticeable because of the heat. I think that increased the noticeability because there were, I believe I counted 16 trees on a 3-block stretch. That is a ton of trees, and that is, I mean, that's palpable. Like when you drive down the street, it is noticeable even if you're not looking for trees being removed. So I think that we can avoid a lot of this kind of misspeak and misinterpretation if if our residents have better access and have the ability to know what is going on with their tree. Even though it's not their tree, it's technically our tree, and I understand that, the city's rather. But another thing that was brought to my attention that I don't think the residents know as well is that by keeping the trees safe and trimmed and removed when they're dangerous, we are able to address the street and the safety issues, and that keeps the liability of our city under control as well. And that is huge because our city taxes go up when our liability goes up. So that is another reason why this is a very important program. I do like the answers that I received from everybody here, and I hope that this gives more information to our residents. I had one other thing, but I forget what. Oh, the wildlife remediation was talked about. You guys talked about the 2-part removal. I think I feel satisfied with that, and I hope that we've given our residents enough information and that we have some kind of game plans to move forward from here. And I appreciate your time very much. Thank you, guys.
Any other comments from the council?
Yes, Your Honor. I just want to share, when you talk about wildlife in the trees, Tom, about 2 years ago, you remember the big maple that fell down at Milton and West End? And you were standing out there assessing it, and the rats just started swarming out, and one ran across your foot, and without missing a beat, you went, oh, that's cute. But the wildlife remediation, we do have a really good wildlife bird rehabber in the city. Not always going to be an option because she's full, and we get it. I really, really would love to see administration work with you, and let's get some kind of a plan in place. We need to get trees back in here, and this is what you do. This is your expertise, and we have unique issues with the freeway, with all the garbage that comes off that, with, just the road traffic. We have special needs here, plus the diseases that have just annihilated a lot of our canopy. And when you think about an urban community, one of the biggest draws that you see in real estate is lined with mature trees. That's a good thing and a bad thing, but we need trees to make us attractive and help with the heating and the cooling and just provide a place for, trees are good. I'd like to see you guys partner with us and maybe get the tree board back in order. That would be something I'd love to see brought back.
Just for the general public, we don't want you planting trees. There's a proper way of planting trees and a proper procedure of planting a tree, so the trees don't, the roots are put in a certain way so they don't upheave our sidewalks.
There is a list of some trees that,
And
That can
an
be
application
planted.
for approval for planting that you have to apply for before. So it's
proper.
available on our website. I spoke with James, I believe, about getting it in a very accessible place. And I will be sharing it on my personal campaign page as well, so that the application is there. It lists the type of approved trees, and then you fill out that application, turn it in, and then you get the instructions on how to
There's a
properly
proper way of planting
Yep,
those
there is.
trees, and that's why we have a tree man
Just- right,
to
just
plant the
don't go
trees. I don't want to see anyone just throwing trees out in our approaches after going through all this expense of putting sidewalks in, and in 5 to 8 years, it's upheaving the sidewalk because they didn't plant it deep enough.
Your Honor, that's why I'd like to see a comprehensive
That's
plan.
why Tom's going to give us the plan.
Yes, sir.
And we're going to move on.
Welcome, Tom.
Thank you
Welcome.
very much, gentlemen.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Communications from department heads, I believe we have the chief in the back. Would you like to come up and say anything?
Since a lot of talk about heat recently, if you do have loved ones that are elderly or other people that are stressed during the heat, check on them. Give them a call, go visit them, that kind of thing. Also, pets in cars. I don't suggest that even with the windows cracked right now. It's so hot. And one other thing, Oak Street Health at 1142 East 9 Mile. They are having a fraud awareness and safety empowerment program. Wednesday, July 25th, 1 to 3 p.m. They're going to have a technology expert, identity theft expert, and also there's going to be a representative from the police department there. That's basically going to be from 1 to 2, answer questions, and then they serve a light lunch after that. I'll get that to Linda, maybe she can put it on the website.
Great.
So that's it.
Well, since you're up here, let me ask you a couple questions.
Okay.
The motorized vehicles like mini bikes running up and down the streets, not necessarily some of the mopeds, I mean, they're blowing through stop signs, they're not paying attention to the law, they're riding down sidewalks. Today I had three mini bikes ride down this John R. sidewalk. They're kind of not authorized vehicle on the road, but they're not authorized to be riding on sidewalks either. Can we do a little more enforcing of these?
Definitely. I'll talk to the officers. We did arrest somebody on a moped recently that had a suspended license. But we had a very busy weekend with the heat. Our crime goes up also, not saying that that's
I guess
not important, but it's...
I guess what I'm saying is there's a lot of people in wheelchairs that are handicapped rolling up and down the sidewalks, and we don't need to have an incident. And that's why I was a little cautious as to, because I got 5 or 6 people that go up and down John R. in front of my business on the wheelchairs every day. They go to the store. And then to see mini bikes cruising pretty good. You know,
Definitely.
that's not very nice.
I'll remind the officers to look out for those problems.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
And it moves us down to the city attorney. Would you, Melissa?
All set, thank you.
Thank you. City manager.
again, I'm glad that our personnel from Public Works and our tree removal contractor were able to be here today to provide all this important information to our residents. Again, I'm sure it's shocking for someone to walk out of their house or return home from work and all of a sudden see the tree that they've been looking at for the past 20 years is now gone. And we're very sensitive to that. We don't want to be killing people's trees or anything like that. We do this for a very important reason, and that's to protect the health and safety of the residents of Hazel Park. So we want to make sure that our sidewalks are safe. We want to make sure that these trees are not dangerous and going to fall or going to create some kind of hazard. So we do that with the public safety in mind. So,
Yes, we do.
Oh, and Melissa, just, we were writing notes to one another. We do have this program on the website. We talked about perhaps maybe putting a little bit more information about it on Facebook. I think a lot more people read the city's Facebook page than they read the actual website. So we can put this on the city's Facebook page, and I'm sure it will get shared to the various forums in the city of Hazel Park, and people will be able to get the information much more quickly.
All right, thank you.
And again, Michigan's system of municipal finance remains fundamentally broken.
Therefore, we can
Thought we were going to get through that.
probably reach more
No.
people.
Councilperson Sullivan.
I wanted to wish everybody a belated happy 4th of July. I hear that it was fairly safe in our city, fairly safe. I'm looking at the chief for that recognition. I want to thank everybody for coming out and thank the residents who either reached out online or email or Facebook or in whatever way they did with questions about this program, and the city manager and other city heads of fields that helped us out, because
I live to serve and answer questions.
I called him and he's like, I already talked to Amy. And I was like, I didn't talk to Amy yet. I called you first. I wanted to address this right away. Another note that the chief of police touched on briefly was dogs, children, elderly left in cars in this heat. On a 70-degree day, the temperature inside of a closed car, even with the windows cracked, goes up 20 degrees, up to 20 degrees in the first 15 minutes. So it is not safe. It is illegal. It will cause fatality or other issues if left for a long time. So please don't do that. Please be safe and pay attention to your surroundings. Look out for your neighbors. Check on your elderly neighbors in this heat. And I believe we opened the rec center for cooling on the really hot
We had
days
the
as
rec
well.
center open for some time. We had, we worked with the library, they were open, and we also had the ice arena open, which is a very cool place
Nice.
to go and cool off.
So thank you.
Yeah, if you want to say something.
Those facilities are open more than when we have heat waves, so even if it's 80 degrees, please feel free to go to the library and read a book and cool off, not just when it's 90.
And visit our ice arena and watch, you can see a hockey game sometimes for free.
For free. Great.
Councilman Lee Carroll.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to say again, thank you to the House of Shamrocks, Joe Bar, Sellerman's, and Madison Park Bowl, and the Cozy Lounge and all their proprietors for helping to support some worthy causes here in the city. The Friends of the Library, the Hazel Park Arts Council, and the Promise Zone. Those volunteer kind of things make up our city and lead me to say how proud I am of our officers as well, and their volunteerism, our police officers, our firefighters, all the employees of the city are out in their own ways making volunteering for a lot of things. Also to remember to get out to vote for the primary in August. And it was interesting to hear about those things with the trees and calming, and wonder how many, should we get a tree program for Ed's office? That's all I have. Thanks for coming out.
I can provide some
Why
potted
that
plants.
bad?
Maybe not a tree, but we'll get them some plants.
Therapy plant?
Councilperson Holland.
Thank you all for coming out, and the folks that were here earlier. It's nice to have a meeting where the power doesn't go out on us. Especially want to thank Chief Buchholz and your officers. The street patrol officers are the first line that have contact with the public, and most often when you meet a cop, it's a bad day for you, and they're just there to kind of sort it all out. It's nice when our officers have the time, and it's been a little crazy lately, but I've noticed, especially with these new younger officers that have been, you're training them well. They're taking the time to stop if they see a group of kids out. It's hey, how you doing? What's going on? I'm Officer so-and-so, and it makes a difference. And the platoon that was represented here tonight and recognized for their volunteerism. You're here already. That platoon often go out of their way to seek opportunities to give back to the community. And there were two of the guys there, I laughed, they're young dads, and they come to work excited and eager, and just appreciate them so much. Also want to let everyone know that the Hazel Park Historical Museum at 45 East Pearl will be open on July 19th from 6 to 8 p.m. We have a whole bunch of new items, including the last remaining phone booth in the city of Hazel Park, and we've acquired a couple of other additional new items. Thank you, Tom. Chuck has done a good job of restoring it, getting the historical graffiti and bird dew removed. Thank you again all for coming out. Appreciate administration and everyone for all their hard work and a good discussion on the trees. Thank you.
So as it's been mentioned a couple times, there's a primary coming up on August 7th. There is something very important to note about that primary. There is a new ballot system because the primary is a partisan ballot. They have put all of the different parties on one ballot now. You cannot cross over between parties, whereas previously you would select the ballot for your preferred party. If you cross over between parties, you will invalidate your vote. So please be very careful. Look it up ahead of time. You can visit the michigan.gov SOS so that you can preview your ballot. There are also several important ballot initiatives in Hazel Park as well as the broader region. So please make sure you go online or can Jimmy, do you have, can you provide samples? Yeah. You can also contact our city clerk if you maybe don't want, if you're less inclined to use the internet. So please just definitely check that out. We want to make sure that nobody's vote gets thrown out. It's very important to participate that. Also want to remind everybody, August 25th and 26th is the Hazel Park Art Fair. We have a fair number of local Hazel Park artists that are going to be participating. It is free for everybody to attend. There will be music, food trucks, children's crafts. There will be beverages for purchase, and obviously you will be supporting a lot of local artists if you're looking to hang something up on the wall, at your desk, something like that. Art also is good for peace of mind, brings happiness, and that's all I have.
Okay. Thanks for coming out this evening. I think it's been a well-informed meeting. I'd like to say thank you to the police officers, and once again, I'd also like to say thank you to all the public servants that we have working in our offices here. It's a thankless job being on the street, whether you're a policeman, fireman, DPW worker, or even a city clerk or someone at the counter here that has to listen to all this complaining that someone may have. Those city workers work very hard, and they do the best job they can. We're not always going to give you the right response or the answer you want, but I'm sure there'll be some way of getting a resolution to your situation. And then if you don't get good results there, you can either contact the city manager or myself. But I also like to say one more thing. It's hot out there. Be aware of your neighbors and be conscientious to someone else's feelings as well, because they might be having a bad day. You never know what happens. And I think we got enough said about the trees. I'm not going to mention it one more time, but let's say, have a good evening. Exec session.
No, I can update you guys individually on anything that you need.
Go trees. Motion for an adjournment.
Move to adjourn, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
Thank you.